What does it take to be a leader in times like these? And I will tell you, my answer is that it's authenticity. That is the new currency of today's leaders. And I want to talk about how some of the traits that an authentic leader has, and more importantly, some of the behaviors and what that should look like at CFI. But Denise says, Doc, you can't just tell them the what's. You got to talk about hows. So we're going to talk about how do you be an authentic leader, especially in times like these, Al, especially given the backdrop that you talked about and Terry talked about, the challenge with talent, trying to make sure that CFI is getting its share of talent that's emerging from a workforce that is more diverse in a number of ways, which you showed, and to make sure that you create an inclusive workplace for that talent, so that it makes it just a little bit harder for somebody to poach that talent from you. So we're going to leave today's leaders with some tips, tools, and resources. A lot of information today. I'm glad that this session is being recorded. In addition to this presentation, which I'll be sending to everyone, we'll also be sending you some copies of my latest book, which Al, you can determine, how to distribute those. This is an interactive session. It's virtual, so there's a lot of ways to participate. You can raise your hand. You can come off of mute and ask a question, or you can enter your question in the chat feature. This is a safe environment. And so picking up on some of the things that Al talked about, this is your leadership session. Don't think about this as a keynote. Think about this as a candid conversation. And so obviously, if you've got questions, we'd like you to lean in, ask your questions, and let's try to learn together today. So again, this is at ICRIS, we have what's called a do, learn, grow philosophy. From everything we do, we try to learn from it and grow from it. If you want to, just stay anonymous and enter your questions in the chat, that's fine. I've got Dr. T with me. She'll be pacing me and making sure that we bring every voice into the conversation that wants to be a part of the conversation. And like I said, we'll give you a copy of this presentation afterwards. Let's keep going, Court. So let's start with a little poll here. So during times like these, which of the following is your greatest challenge? And is it leading a remote workforce, bouncing back from a tough loss, leading a diverse work team, finding top talent for a crucial position, talking about a sensitive topic? Let's hear. And again, I want you to tell me what's your biggest challenge. And we talk about times like these. What's the biggest challenge you're finding?
I see, Doc, people are completing the poll. We have about 41%. And people are responding. And I see that finding top talent for crucial positions is right now one of the greatest challenges that's taken the majority.
Absolutely. That would be 100% consistent with what I'm hearing as I speak around the country, both live and virtually, that finding talent and keeping it in these times is tough. Okay, Court, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing that. While we keep going, I'd like you to enter some into the chat, and we'll pull those voices in later. Why is that? Why is that your number one challenge? So, Court, kill the so let's find out why that is, and then let's also, I'd like to know from you, what would you like to get out of our time together? Certainly, I want to talk to you about what it takes to be an authentic leader, but what do you want to come away with from this short time together? Again, enter that into the chat, and Courtney will, if you would, at some point, remind me to pull those voices into the presentation, okay?
Absolutely.
Next slide. Thank you. Next slide. Interactive session, and this is your session. So, and we talk about times like these. So let's, what does that mean? Well, they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. If that's true, then a short video clip should be worth 1,000,000 words. So let's show a quick video that I think will give some broader context. It definitely will underscore some of the comments that Terry and Al kicked us off with. Courtney, if you'll show the quick video.
All right, can you hear the sound? Great.
We did lose some people during the pandemic.
I think COVID's just got people reevaluating things a little bit, thinking about their path, their future,
Could we be on the verge of what's being called the Great Resignation? As employers and employees look ahead to what jobs will look like as COVID restrictions ease, experts say many workers may just pack up and leave.
Many employers are underestimating how difficult this transition back to the office is going to be.
Workplace expert Debbie Carew expects the return to the office post-restrictions will bring one of the largest workplace turnovers of our lifetime.
So if employers think that they're just going to say July 1st or September 1st, everyone back to the office, they're probably going to lose a third of their employees if they don't handle it carefully.
It's this hidden thing that's about to hit employers that they don't recognize is coming. I think that most employers, when I hear them speaking in the news or they're putting out press releases, they're saying our culture, our culture, our culture. And I think what they're forgetting is that there's before March 2020 and the way the world was, and then there's after March 2020. Mm-hmm. And culture has evolved and changed as people have worked from home.
Most of the people we spoke to on the street were hopeful their employer would at least keep some kind of hybrid model, with time divided between in-person and at-home work.
I like having my own space, kind of figuring out my own hours.
I think having the chance to, if it's just one of those days, being able to stay home, it's great. I love it. But you get that energy at the office still.
The benefits from working from home, like the no commute and that sort of thing is hard to pass up.
Carew warns employers should start talking to their staff now about what they are hoping for as far as a permanent workplace environment.
There's so many unknowns right now that a lot of people are really evaluating and saying, is the grass greener somewhere else? And even if they're not necessarily jumping today, I can guarantee you more than half of your workforce is at least thinking about it or looking at what other opportunities are out there.
In Vancouver, Ashley Burr, City News.
So this I think out of that clip, and I've watched this several times, the thing that keeps hitting me is that this is only August of 2021, but in the clip, the reporter said that this is not March. If there was before March of 2020 and then after. And I will tell you that at times like this, leaders like yourself often think or feel stressed and pressure, it's always tough being a leader. You may even feel lonely and isolated, like you're the only one that you're fighting in a war and you're an army of one, and that you're in you're in sink or swim, and every day you have to put on your game face, that you have to have all the answers all the time, and you can't be seen as vulnerability or be seen as that vulnerability, transparency would be seen as weakness. And I'm telling you that while all of this is true, you need to embrace it. And that's what authenticity is all about. Next slide, quick. And what I'm going to try to tell you is please, please, please resist the traditional reactions to challenging situations like we all find ourselves in these tough times. Traditionally, leaders have always gone back to, the mission, the meaning, let's remember what our existence is and trying to focus on getting in more resources, reorganizing, or just resorting to just trying to muscle through it and with brute force and power. And I'm going to say we need to do something different. We need to do something better. And that is where I believe today, authenticity is the new currency for today's leader. Next slide, Courtney. So let's try something new. This is and I would say a good place to start is your own CFI inclusion model. I love this model because it says, let's remember at the core are CFI's values, and that those values are key ingredients in inclusion. And why is inclusion so important? Because today, as you just saw in the video, you're going to have to be a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplace to A, recruit the talent that you need, and B, keep the talent that you need. So let's start by making sure that at the very least, we are role modeling and applying the CFI inclusion model and leveraging your values, which I love, as the basis for how you decide what you need to do different and better going forward. Next slide.
Doc, I do want to bring attention to the chat. Michael shared a comment, understanding the change and why people want to work, what motivates the individual. And this aligns exactly with the CFI inclusion model as well.
Absolutely. And as we go through, they're going to start hearing words like vulnerability, transparency, explaining the whys behind decisions. These are these skills and these behaviors are going to be critical going forward. So authentic leadership leads to an environment of empowerment where people feel safe, psychologically safe. They feel that there's no hidden agendas and that everybody is focused on the CFI mission, which is critical. The mission of CFI, you're in that gap between government and private sector. What you do, nobody does better. And so, but in order to do that and continue to do that in the times going forward, you're going to have to, everybody's going to have to be on their A game, just like the Milwaukee Bucks, and everyone is going to have to be satisfied in their role and in their job. So this is, I would ask you to consider that model and kind of blend it in with that CFI model. So the question is, Doc, what's authentic leadership? So Dr. Teague, let's tell them what authentic leadership is. Authentic leadership is owning your own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and then acting in a way that reflects your true selves. In other words, saying what you really think and feel and behaving accordingly. That means that you're going to have to be a role model for the company's values. You're going to have to be a role model, and that you're going to have to earn trust every day by modeling those values. Next slide, Courtney. An authentic leader is someone that's deeply aware of their own values and beliefs and strive every day to make sure that those are aligned with the organization. We're talking about someone that's confident, genuine, reliable, trustworthy, and they focus on building the people on their team, building their strengths, building their thinking, and creating a healthy, diverse, inclusive, and equitable team and organization. That is an authentic leader. Some of the traits of an authentic leader. And these are in no certain order. One trait is not more important than the other. It's all of these. It's using all of these traits. It's being self-aware, being disciplined, being vulnerable. I saw a couple of notes in the chat about being flexible, being adaptable, being values-driven, and valuing differences, and then being transparent. This is not the time to, this is the time to be transparent, be vulnerable, let people know that, hey, in these tough times, I'm going through some things as well, and we'll get through this together. All these traits together make up an authentic leader. But let's look at a couple of them in a little bit more detail. And so you've got 4 of them here, but I want to talk about at least two of these that I just think is critical, and that's being values driven. When I think about the mission of CFI, everyone on the team, your customers, your clients, your patients, they have to see those values in in the behavior of particularly leadership. And then obviously, if leaders are modeling the values, everyone on the team will follow suit. And then being transparent, being open and honest, and talking about some of the things that you are thinking and feeling with the people on your team or the person that you work with, and then working through things together. A couple more traits on the next slide. The one that I want to jump down to is vulnerability. And again, I just can't tell you how critical vulnerability is. It is that link between values and action. See, people, they don't know what your intent is. The only thing they know is what your actions are. And, leaders, we tend to evaluate ourselves based on our intent, but the people that work for us on our team evaluate us based on the impact of our leadership behavior on their performance and on their well-being. And so vulnerability is that link, particularly between intent and impact. Next slide, please. So let's stop there. Courtney, any reactions? Al, thank you for that comment. Vulnerability does not mean being weak. As a matter of fact, one of the key strengths of a good leader is one that's comfortable, confident, and competent because they are in fact vulnerable. Anything in the chat that any questions, anything I need to respond to before we talk about specific behaviors?
No, it's just filled with great comments, but no direct questions at the moment.
No, okay, so let's do this. Let's stop and pause. I know we've got a number of people that's joined us today, but if someone has a question that they want to ask real time, let me pause here. Questions, comments, or feedback. And if you let's come off the mic. I'm gonna invite you to come off mic, come on camera, and let's have a conversation. Any questions? Okay. I take silence as permission to keep moving. All right, so then we've talked about what authentic leadership is, and we've also talked about what some of the traits are. What are some of the behaviors? What should it actually, if you have those traits, what should the behaviors actually look like? Well, at the top of my list is that this is not the time to shut yourself off. I mean, in fact, especially in times where, during these times where we have at least part of the workforce may be working in a hybrid work environment, excuse me, this is the time to be accessible and be approachable. Be thinking about, wow, what are my people going through? And, what's the organization going through? As a result, what should I be doing as a leader? And I will tell you that this is a perfect time to be empathetic and put yourself in the shoes of other people. Next slide, Courtney. This is the time to strengthen relationships. This is the time to reach out to that person that you really trust, that's in your circle, that you can talk to. This is a time to be bouncing questions off of the people that you have in your inner circle. This is a time to be communicating clearly and in an optimistic manner. This is the time to be giving shout outs to people. And people say all the time, what's this psychological support? In a workplace, people want to know, is this a place where I can talk about the things that are top of mind, the things that are impacting me? Is this a safe place? Am I going to be judged? Am I going to get the help that I need? So again, if you have a relationship that has been where, as a leader, you've been vulnerable, you've been authentic, that's the key ingredient to trust. And as we all know, trust is absolutely critical to having a healthy relationship. Next slide, Courtney. The other thing is, and if I only had one slide, I would do my whole presentation around this. I know that as a leader, you know, especially if you are a type A, or if your Myers-Briggs is an ENTJ, or if you are if your DISC profile says that you are a high D, it's all about action. It's all about results. And it's like, see a problem, fix a problem. And I will tell you that today, what we need are leaders who are just willing, not willing, but they are comfortable, that they are confident, and that they are competent, just listening to learn, not trying to listen to fix everything, not trying to be an Avenger or a superhero, but just listening to learn. And that's the way that you can make connections to people. If people talk about all the time, what's one of the best ways that you can show respect for people? One of the best ways you can show respect for people is by simply listening to them. And not listening to say, well, what should I be doing to fix the issue, but simply listening to learn. And then if you don't have all the answers, say, I don't have all the answers. But hey, together we'll figure it out together.
Doc,
yes, go ahead.
I did want to bring in a comment. Recognize others' feelings are as important or sometimes more important than our own. That's key to knowing your staff, knowing who you're working with, your colleagues, and being in tune. And just as simple as asking, how are you doing? Oftentimes we go through the day and some people may not be asked, how are you doing or how are you being instead of doing? And having one-to-one meetings checking in. Thank you, Joanne.
Yeah, especially those one-on-one check-ins with people. I participated in a worldwide study of the effect on COVID, particularly on well-being. And I was shocked that one of the number one findings from that report, which was done by which was sponsored by The Economist magazine and included 18 countries and tens of thousands of people, was that people felt isolated. I was shocked that they said that they felt isolated and didn't feel like their leader cared because their leader didn't check in on them. So thank you, Joanne, for sharing that. Another one of my favorites is explaining the whys behind decisions. If you have data, let's put it like this. I think sometimes just telling a quick anecdote makes the point better. I can tell you that at least half of our clients during COVID had to lay off people or had to reorganize their organizations. And one of the number one things that I tried to emphasize to those clients was make sure that you explain the why. Why are you doing this? Is it COVID? Is it other things? Have you tried other things such as reducing salaries, eliminating bonuses, deferring merits before you had to cut headcount? Explaining why is this to people, again, is a critical trait during times like these. The lack of information leads to anxiety, it leads to rumors, and it could have devastating impacts on the organization. What else what other behaviors should leaders have? Next slide, transparency. I shouldn't have to tell the folks at CFI this, but I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. Focus on your personal well-being, particularly in your mental health and your physical health. And one of the things that I'm going to ask you to consider putting on your personal action plan is let's hold each other accountable. Let's be, our brothers and sisters keeper. If you notice that if you are one of those people that like to go for a walk in the middle of the day just to clear your head, why not pull one of your fellow leaders and say, hey, let's go for a walk together. And obviously, just to get out and and get re-energized. Let's hold each other accountable for, making sure that we're hydrating. If you find that you're one of those people that are that's drinking 64 ounces of water a day, and bring in a couple bottles of water for some colleagues. Just walk past their desk or whatever, say, hey, you hydrating today, and just leave a bottle of water, something on this desk. And let's continue to take care of each other during times like these. These are not big things, but this is just, I think the word here, the two words are being proactive and being intentional, and setting the expectation that leaders and team peers and team members on the team should incorporate these things into their daily work team. And then I mean, for me, reassuring people that, feeling a certain way, that's the way I like to put it. The word stress, it means different things to different people, but feeling a certain way during times like these is normal, and it is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of weakness. Reaching out, asking for help, and talking to folks is not a sign of weakness of a leader. It's a sign of strength. It's self-awareness is a key strength of an authentic leader. Next slide, Courtney, please.
Doc, quick question. Denise asked, what is the best way to stay authentic when the news you have to share is not popular?
Authentic is being honesty, and I go right back to the CFI values. When you have to communicate tough information, and we cover this in our course entitled Courageous Conversations, Moving from Awareness to Actions. You guys went through some of this with your Crucial Conversations training. If you use those keys in that training, for an example, someone comes to you, you have to go to someone with some tough information. Being able to state what the facts are, being able to explain the situation, being able to explain the why behind the decision, and then incorporating the person in the solution that will help move forward. That's the key. So my answer is an easy answer, because I know that you guys already have some skill training that simply applying it is in fact will help you reinforce and be authentic. Again, transparent communication, listening sessions, town halls, and not necessarily delegating everything to HR or D&I, but as a leader, you should be doing it. And then, remember the 3 R's: review. Don't think you can just communicate something and that's it. You have to review it, repeat it, constantly reinforce it. Use all of your communications channels. Like in this TikTok generation, you have to communicate to people in a way in which they want to be communicated with. And then, of course, you want to deliver information with empathy, sensitivity, and compassion. Remember, there's no one size fits all. No one size fits all. Use the training that you guys got in Crucial Conversations. Next slide, please. So just a quick summary of what we just covered. Here are some do's. Here are some don'ts. But for me, again, this is just Dr. Good. What my team holds me accountable for, number one, is creating an environment where everyone at any time can give me feedback. At Icarus Consulting, we have a process. It is not even a process. I'm not even sure what to really even call it. It's just a behavior. We call it 3, 2, 1. For an example, let me show you how it works. After this session, I promise you, Dr. Teague is immediately going to get on the phone and says, okay, I know you want to kind of decompress from the keynote, but let's talk about 3 things that you did well. Let's talk about 2 things that I think you could do a little bit better the next time. And then here's one thing that I really like, or here's one thing that let's cut that from the presentation because it didn't seem to work, or here's one thing that let's not do that again. And again, we have a do, learn, grow environment at Icarus. And so everybody, I expect her to do it. If she doesn't call me 2 seconds after the call, I'll be calling her and say, okay, tell me 3 things I did that you think really made the presentation. Tell me 2 things that I could do to improve. And then, is there that I have one thing, let's call it a missed opportunity, and she will give me the feedback. Creating that environment, and the team knows that they expect it to give that feedback. I think, to me, I would like to think that my team would say, Doc tries to role model that and get better at being authentic by being vulnerable and being transparent, but creating an environment of inclusion on our team that's illustrated by our ability to be able to give him feedback. Next slide, Courtney. So let's move from awareness to the person to talking about you developing a personal action plan. Well, let's go back to the 10 things that a CFI leader should do. This is not new to you. These are things you should already be doing because they're already an expectation. So let's make sure at the very least on your personal action plan, you are doing these things. And if there are opportunities for you to get better or to do something different, you've got excellent resources in Al and Denise. But more importantly, you've got each other. You've gone through crucial conversations and other skill-based training in-house. Use that training, hold each other accountable, go be peer coaches and mentors to each other. So the first thing, if you don't put anything else on your plan, put on your plan, I am going to try to the 10 things, I am going to role model the 10 things that a CFI leader should do. And number 2, if there's something on there you need to get better at, I am going to go to blank to get some help to get better at doing something. So this you should already be doing. Next slide, please. Let me add to your list. Remember what they said in the video. This is not, there was before March of 2020 and there's after March of 2020. This is not the time to be omnipotent. This is the time to be real. You can't do everything. You may not be able to take on more. It's okay. This is not the time to isolate. This is the time to engage, and engage by focusing on the needs of your team. Give yourself a break. And if you're not getting to that 20 things on your to-do list every day, be a little less self-critical and be a little bit more self-compassionate. Give yourself a break. And remember, you're not a Marvel superhero. And if you're one of those people that, hey, I'm the only person that can do it, so I'm going to do it, move away from extreme self-reliance and connect. Focus on the strengths, build relationships, and remember, it's okay to ask for help. So if you're not comfortable, confident, or competent doing these things on this slide, put that on your personal action plan. Next slide, please. During times like this, it's important to remember what's the most important to you. I don't know about you, but between March of 2020 and August of 2021, I have become laser focused on priorities. For not my family is closer together because we've been focusing on more quality family time. The Icarus team is more focused because that we know that there's companies, organizations out there like CFI, great organizations that are trying to figure some things out and get a little bit better, be a little bit more diverse, a little bit more equitable, a little bit more inclusive. And they have given us the privilege and the honor of partnering with them. So that helps us stay focused every day. And trying to shift expectations about what's a good day. A good day may not be doing 20 things on a list. It may be doing 2 or 3 things and doing them super well. And then making that 4th thing on your list, making sure that you checked in with your people to find out what they need. And shift priority to focus more on quality time with friends, family or friends, and again, and yourself. Next slide, Court. So what we're asking you to do on your personal action plan is to commit to doing something different and better. Reflect on what was learned here today. how you gonna, your team know that you spent 3.5 hours a day in a workshop. What are you gonna go back and tell them that you talked about today? What did you learn? And then accept the fact that there's more than one way to view an issue or a situation. There, as the story goes, I'll just sum it up this way, and Al's heard me say this. I thought Zoom was a Commodore song. I had no idea. I had no idea. And for those who don't know the Commodores, Lionel Richie and Commodores had a #1 song called Zoom. And I didn't know. And I'm telling you the truth. And this is not one of those, this is not, Courtney didn't know I was going to put her on the spot like this. I'm just saying that this is the time where it's like, and yes, I struggled, but hey, now I know Zoom, Teams, all these things. And I feel better, not just because of the skill, but the fact that when my team says, nope, you have got to role model this, they held me accountable for saying we need to create these learning experiences for people, and we've got to make sure that they are comparable. So what I want to do, I've got 12 minutes, but I just want to emphasize that what I'm asking everyone to do is it's real simple. And think about what is one thing that I can do different or better so that I can be an authentic leader. And so either in the chat, or if you want to share with your fellow leaders, what's one thing that you think you can at least commit to, at least trying to do different or better in an effort to be an authentic leader, which is needed in times like these. So either in the chat or come on mic, preferably come on mic. I love talking to you guys. And so share with us what you think you're going to do different, or at least try to do different or better. So I'm going to stop here. We have some books. My latest book, Beyond Inclusion, Reimagining the Future of Work, Workers in the Workplace. Al, I'm going to send you about a dozen copies, and you can figure out how to best distribute those. Maybe you give it to those people who are working on their personal action plan. And then we'll send you a copy of this presentation. There are also some other great resources out there. We would encourage you to use those. And that information is contained in the PDF file that I'll be sending to Al later today. And then again, I'm here for you. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. In fact, I invite you to. I hope you do. And if there's anything that I can do to support you and help you move from awareness to action and be an authentic leader, I will consider me a resource. My contact information is here on the slide. And so thank you so much.